other game that really is going to shake up and really kind of define the SEC picture this coming season, that is the belle of the ball, the Kentucky Wildcats. They go to Georgia to face the Georgia Bulldogs. Georgia, of course, coming off that emotional win over Auburn. Interesting line movement in this one as well. Georgia opened as a 15-point home favorite, now down to 14. The over-under in this game is 49. And when I look at this game, listen, we gave flowers to Kentucky and Mark Stoops on Monday's Aaron Torres pod. We're going to have to do it again today because that was not just a big win. That was a historic win from the perspective that I don't think anyone listening to this show, watching the show, whatever, has ever seen Kentucky absolutely manhandle the Florida Gators like that. I mean, it was complete domination, as we discussed on Monday. 329 yards rushing for the Kentucky Wildcats against the Florida Gators. I don't care how bad Florida is. I don't care how much lack of offense that they have. That is not, Florida should never be giving up 329 yards rushing to an SEC opponent, 9 yards per carry. Ray Davis kind of becomes a national household name. And also, like, it's important to note is that Kentucky's defense played really well as well. Florida was a play or two away from absolutely getting blown out. They do finish with just barely 300 yards of total offense, but Kentucky had 9 tackles for loss in that game, 3 sacks. So they got after the quarterback as well. They made plays in the backfield as well. And so I look at that game, as I said, it was as much of a Kentucky butt kicking as any of us could have seen or imagined. But I do think the one thing that I will say about Kentucky that does need to kind of get fixed going forward, they got to figure out the pass game with Devin Leary. And I'll be honest, listen, I was one of those people, right? I was one of those guys that in the preseason, I was praising Devin Leary to the heavens, right? I said he's a transfer quarterback, NC State. He was really good at NC State 2 years ago in 2021, gets hurt last season. Said, oh, he'll go to Kentucky. I'll have a big bounce back with Liam Cohen, the offensive coordinator. Well, as of right now, Devin Leary isn't playing very well. Now, Saturday, he didn't have to do very much except for hand off the ball to Ray Davis, get behind that big blue wall, the offensive line. But you're going to need a better game from Devin Leary in this game just because you're not going to be able to just run the ball right at Georgia. Kind of goes without saying. Devin Leary on the season, 57% completion percentage, 10 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, which is kind of jarring, again, for a guy like myself who thought that this was going to be a very good college quarterback. Now, from the Georgia perspective, Georgia to me is like very interesting because they're 5-0. They haven't really looked very good in any of their games, certainly their marquee games. Trailed at the half to South Carolina, was tied at the half, tied after 3 quarters against Auburn last week. Now, as Kirby Smart said, and I think it's worth noting, going on the road in the SEC is not easy. Winning on the road in the SEC is not easy, and I give Kirby Smart credit. He didn't get caught up in all the minutia. What does it mean? Maybe behind the scenes, he's frustrated. Maybe behind the scenes, he knows that there's a lot of stuff to work on. But publicly, he was praiseworthy of that team for getting the win at Auburn. Now, for Georgia, interesting to me, it's kind of the opposite almost of what I think about Kentucky. I thought Carson Beck, the first-year starter quarterback, I thought he actually came along very nicely in that Auburn game. Now, it helps when you have Brock Bowers, I don't know why I said Blake, Brock Bowers to throw the ball to. And Brock Bowers was incredible. I think Brock Bowers is going to be in the Heisman contention throughout the year. He's going to be a top 10 pick come the NFL draft. But I thought Carson Beck, the quarterback, really did a good job of getting comfortable and looked, I thought, in the second half, the best that he has looked all year. What's wild about Georgia, though, the things that they're usually relying on, they're not very good this year. I mean, they're okay, but they're not Georgia good. They're not what we have come to expect from Georgia. Just for fun, I looked it up, okay? So Georgia's run game has always kind of been their signature thing. And I think with Stetson Bennett last year, they had to rely on it less. But last year, they ranked in the top 20 nationally in rush offense. They were 19th nationally in rush offense a season ago. This year, they rank 79th nationally in rushing offense, okay? That is insane. 79th nationally in rushing offense, averaging 148 yards per game, about 25 yards per game fewer. Here's the crazy part, though. Their run defense has not been good. And this is the team, Georgia, right? Like we always talk about Georgia, all those big guys up front, all that physicality, all that toughness, all that skill. You know that Georgia right now, and you would sit here and say that's not that bad. They rank 39th nationally in rush defense. That sounds, oh, that's not bad. That's awesome. Top 40 nationally, that's good. Here's the thing. Go back to 2022, 2021, 2020, and 2019. You know what Georgia had in common in all 4 years between 2019 and 2022? They ranked either number 1 or number 2 nationally in rush defense, giving up about somewhere between 73 and 77 yards per game in all 4 seasons. And so I bring it up because they're averaging about 50 yards per less rushing on the ground, and like 75, they're giving up 75 more yards on the ground per game as well. And so when you start talking about this game, I can see it being close. I can see it being competitive because I think Kentucky's going to have relative success running the ball. By the way, this is a series that has been very, very, very close through the years, probably closer than I think a lot of people realize. Last year, Georgia, they had a couple close regular season games at Missouri, at Kentucky. They win 16-6. 2 years ago, 30-13 Georgia wins, but that was about as tough as anybody played them during the regular season as that in that 2021 title run. Georgia won 14-3 during the COVID year in 2020, 21-0 in the 2019 season. So really, these have been close and low scoring games. And if you had to make me pick a side, if you had to make me bet it, I think the under is the best bet by a mile. Kentucky, they always, even with the star quarterbacks, always played close, always play low scoring on the road in the SEC. For fun, I looked it up. If you take out Vanderbilt, when they play Vanderbilt on the road, Vanderbilt doesn't count. They're terrible. Every single game that Kentucky has played on the road since the start of last season in the SEC has gone under 50 points. One hit 50 exactly. That was Tennessee last year. They lost 44-6. Hendon Hooker was incredible. But from the Kentucky perspective, they play close, low-scoring games on the road, and this is a close, low-scoring series. So if you're asking me to pick the game, I'll say Georgia wins somewhere in the neighborhood of 23-14. I like the Kentucky spread bet, but I like the under bet even more. I think this is close and competitive. It's hard for me to pick against Georgia at home, especially coming off, a tough road win. But I think Kentucky shows again that they are a great program, a great team, ascending team. I just think it's a lot to ask to go on between the hedges and win this game. Thank you, everybody, for your support of the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube channel. And we do have a major announcement as major news has come to the state of Kentucky. That is right. Legal sports betting now available in Kentucky. And here is the cool part. The Aaron Torres Pod YouTube channel has now partnered with DraftKings Sportsbook and the DraftKings Sportsbook app. And as a thank you to listeners of this channel, DraftKings Sportsbook has an incredible offer for all first-time customers. First-time customers, here's what you need to know. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Bet $5 on any game. You get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you use the code Torres. That's Torres, Torres. All you got to do, it's very simple. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook online. Bet $5 on any game. Get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you use the code Torres. First-time customers, take advantage of this exclusive offer. It's an incredible deal. Thank you to DraftKings. Could not be more fired up to be working with the DraftKings Sportsbook.